So it's Holy Thursday, the first day of the Triduum, and tonight is when we celebrate the institution of the Eucharist, which is the source and summit of the Catholic faith. We have a lot of traditions in our house for tonight, but before I show them to you, I wanted to share something that my pastor said in his homily yesterday, actually. In the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, it's a little different than the other two, but in Matthew and Mark, the way that the evening is laid out, Judas is focused on, he has the whole bread thing, and then Judas, go do what you need to do, and so he leaves. And then Jesus has, the first Mass, he institutes the Eucharist. And right after that, Peter's there bragging about, Lord, I'll never desert you, and he's like, Peter. Father's point focused in on the series of events. You have the betrayer, then you have the Eucharist, and then you have the denier. And between denial and betrayal of Jesus' best friends, he instituted the Eucharist. It was placed there on purpose so that in our lives, when we are surrounded by crummiest feelings, when we're faced with denial and betrayal and friends turning their backs on us and stabbing us in the back and our life is in shambles, Jesus is like, wait, no, I'm right in the middle of that. Here I am in the Eucharist for you. And I am the friend who will never betray you, will never deny you, will never ever leave your side ever. So come and see me, I'm here all the time. Adoration, good thing. So anyway, I thought that was really, really beautiful. And now for the traditions of the day. The first thing of the evening is a feast. Traditional Passover feast, sort of a little bit with a couple of tweaks. We start off with the traditional Jewish bit. We have our unleavened bread and bitter herbs and salt water representing the bitterness and sadness of the Jews in exile. The Choroshish is not mentioned in the Bible, but it is part of the traditional Passover meal and represents the mortar used by the Jewish slaves to lay bricks. Here's the wine, except I'm underage, so I don't drink wine. Now, throughout this whole course, we're reading excerpts from the Old Testament on how to do the Passover and the first Passover and dedicating firstborn and things like that. Here's our lovely Passover lamb. My dad doesn't like lamb, so it's just turkey. But yeah, the rest of the meal is pretty normal, but it's very tasty. Yes, then we go to Mass, which is really beautiful at our church. Our chapel is actually a separate building from our church, and it's only a little ways up the road. So we actually have a procession in the dark, totally silent. The Blessed Sacrament is carried out, and everyone processes out down the road into our chapel, and they have a little prayer service, and then everyone leaves, all in total silence. And then that's that. When we come home, then we set up for our little prayer vigil that we do every year. In the evening, we set up this little altar and arrange the candles around it just to make a really nice setting for the prayers that we do throughout the night. Now, the vigil itself is sort of a mimic of the agony in the garden when Jesus had to wake up his disciples 3 different times when they kept falling asleep on him. So what we do is we say these prayers once at 11, once at 1 a.m., and once at 3 a.m., going to sleep and waking up in between them. And that's actually really hard to do sometimes. When we were younger, a lot of times we would just fall asleep again immediately and then miss the prayers. But now that we're older, it's become sort of an indispensable part of the Holy Thursday, and I can't imagine the day without it. So that's our Holy Thursday. It's a really special time, and I just love all the traditions of our house, and I'm going to be really sad when I'm away in college next year and I won't be here. So Teresa, here's to you. I'm sorry you can't be here, but at least I brought it to you on YouTube. Let me know if you guys have any Holy Thursday traditions, and I'll see you tomorrow with the Good Friday.